Thank you, team. I just ask as we're talking now, we've got some challenges for some of the lights here, so you might find I move away from the screen and then I'll come straight back. So just to make sure that we can actually see in this particular room. So for us here at in the discipline of counselling, and we'll talk tonight about the different courses that we offer, but it's really important that when you come knocking on the door here and you're thinking about wanting to study counselling, whether it's our Diploma of Counselling Skills or our Graduate Diploma of Counselling or our Masters or our Bachelor, we have a philosophy that our students and our staff have worked on and contributed to. And this is very, very important. And I think this is what distinguishes us as a training institution in terms of counselling. And we do have an intentional emphasis on exploring, developing and applying personal and professional identity as you transition to independent counsellors. We spend a lot of time teaching reflection, self-awareness. We explore the therapeutic processes and we integrate theory and research, practice. And we're an applied college. So you'll find whatever units that you are studying, there's opportunities to apply. And so when you may engage in volunteering or service learning or indeed in placement, you will have had many units where you've actually been able to master your craft before you're out there in the field. We are very proud. Our biggest focus is to teach you to apply knowledge and skills as you evolve as highly skilled, ethical, culturally sensitive professionals who are competent to work across a range of diverse settings, a range of lifespan development stages, and a range of different socio-cultural groups. And really that's our footprint. So as you explore this particular program, you'll see that all of your educators are actually singing from the same song sheet. And that's really the glue that binds us together. As we were preparing for tonight, I've been asked to identify what actually influenced me to become a counsellor. And I'm going to indulge for a very short amount of time to give you a sense of, I'm the chair of counselling discipline, and what really influenced me is my background is as a teacher. And I worked in classrooms and I also worked in special education. And there were many, many students who fell through the cracks and that they just didn't fit within the teaching and learning environment. And the world was their oyster, but we weren't able to unlock what it was to get them to engage as learners, to thrive, not just survive school. So as a teacher and as a special education consultant, I embarked on a journey of counselling. And I worked in schools as a school counsellor. I worked in private practice as a behaviour change specialist here in Australia and overseas. And really what's motivated me to come and work here at ACAP within the counselling profession is to ensure our graduates are really competent and you have the skill set you need to work with the client basis that you have coming knocking on your door day in, day out. So what I found as a counsellor working in private practice for over 10 years, working in Indigenous communities, working with homeless youth, working with young people on the streets, is that many families and many young people had gone to counsellors over their life journey, but the counsellors hadn't really been taught very well. And so for many of these individuals, they didn't have someone who believed in them, somebody who could actually work with them to help them be successful in their world to their satisfaction. So what's motivated me to come here and work at ACAP is to work with educators and students like yourself so that really you are becoming a master of your craft. So when you graduate, that you are actually fit to practice ethically with diverse communities and diverse individuals. And we take that really very seriously. And as we explore tonight, you'll get a sense of why attendance matters, why the accreditation bodies are really important for us, because we're very proud to have ACAP out there really leading the way in the area of counselling. So in our programs, you'll have, as I said earlier, we've got the Diploma of Counselling Skills. So some of you here tonight are listening through that particular set of glasses. Others are listening through the Bachelor of Coaching or the Bachelor of Coaching, the Bachelor of Counselling with a minor in coaching. Others of you will be listening from a postgraduate lens. You're interested in our School Wellbeing Graduate Certificate, or our graduate diploma, or even our Masters of Counselling and Psychotherapy. Now, right across all of those particular courses, we do have attendance requirements, and we don't shy away from these attendance requirements because you're actually working with human beings. So we think it's absolutely critical that you engage, you interrogate the learning that you are going to embark on as of the 20th of September when we start trimester 3. And so we say to our students, we have an expectation of 100% attendance, but we have a mandatory attendance of 80%. And that means that life does get in the way for many of us, particularly in COVID time, such an uncertain time that we are walking in at the moment. So what we say is, if you do miss a certain number of tutorials, 2 tutorials over a 12-week trimester, there are make-up tasks that need to be done, and those make-up tasks are done within a time period of 2 weeks. So what you'll find when you look at our unit outlines, you'll find that it's not a mystery. All of our educators have a shared understanding and a shared language, and we communicate to you about the importance of attendance, but we're really very clear. And as our colleague, when she was talking about, we have different approaches in terms of how we deliver our courses. We have on-campus classes, and as you can appreciate, in COVID times, we don't have many campuses that are actually working with students on campus, with the exception at the moment of the Perth campus. We've got purely online classes where sometimes you'll be working in an online environment and you'll be blogging with your educator and with your peers. But we also have a blended environment, and that's about, you have live stream recorded lectures every fortnight, you have tutorials every fortnight, and when you don't have a tutorial, you have the benefit of your educator being there every second week for the same amount of time, 2 hours, and you can come on board and you can ask questions, you can practice skills, you can deliberate, you can work with one another. So the attendance is connected to the tutorials, not to our lectures. Our lectures are live stream and they're recorded. You can listen to them wherever. You need to listen to the lectures before you hit the ground with the tutorials, because as adult learners, we have that expectation that you will actually engage in the learning before you come to the tutorial. And once the tutorial is finished, lo and behold, you've got some beautiful resources on our online platform to engage with for that particular week or that particular fortnight's worth of learning. So the attendance requirements are really important. And what I encourage you to do is, when you do enroll, that you have a look at our unit outlines, and our unit outlines explain beautifully, really clearly what's expected, so that you're set up for success. We're invested in your success because your success matters. It's very important to us. So as I mentioned earlier, we have different courses, and a number of you on the platform tonight will be sitting listening with the lens of, what does this mean for me? I'm actually interested in enrolling in the Bachelor of Counselling, or I'm interested in enrolling in the Diploma of Counselling Skills. So the Diploma of Counselling Skills is what we call AQF, Australian Quality Framework number 5. So that's our entry point in terms of being introduced to counselling skills, being introduced to counselling theories. And one of the beautiful parts of the Diploma of Counselling Skills is you have the opportunity to be in the classroom with students who are also learning counselling, students who are learning psychology, and so students who are learning criminology and social work, because we have 3 units that we call multidisciplinary units. Because as counsellors, you're not going to graduate out into the field and work purely with counsellors. You'll actually be working in multidisciplinary teams. And you might find you've got an occupational therapist, a dietitian, a psychologist, a social worker. So as we develop and work with you in the undergraduate program in your first year of study, you get that opportunity to work in different teams. Now, the Diploma of Counselling Skills is 1 year. It's not an accredited course. It's not a course that's accredited with our accreditation bodies. It's a year where you can do the counselling skills. It's also the first year of a 3-year Bachelor of Counselling. So students may do the diploma and you start and you think, am I going to continue? I just want to see, is this for me? And you're thinking, yep, this is doing well. I'm doing well with my learning, with my teaching. I'm actually enjoying it. I'm going to move on and move into the 2nd year, which is the Bachelor of Counselling. If you choose to do the Bachelor of Counselling coaching 4 of the units in the second and third year are actually coaching units. So rather than doing the 4 counselling units, you do 4 coaching units, and that's the difference. And both the Bachelor of Counselling Coaching and the Bachelor of Counselling are accredited with our counselling associations. And if you do coaching, we also have the icing on the cake in that you're accredited for those particular 4 units with the International Coach Federation. There'll be several of you listening on the platform tonight thinking, well, I'm actually going to be studying a dual degree, and part of my qualification is going to be the psychological sciences, and part of my qualification is going to be counselling. And this particular course is discussed in the Psychology Discover ACAP session, but we'll have a little bit of a peek at it later and share with you how many units are counselling units and how many units are psychological science units. We're also delighted to share with you that we've got a grad cert in wellbeing in schools. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And that's for colleagues who may be working in schools at the moment, who might be working as paraprofessionals. You might be a teacher. You might actually be a school counsellor. It might be somebody actually working in the area of wellbeing and you want to learn more and really master the craft. We've got the Diploma of Counselling and the Master of Counselling and Psychotherapy. So there are 2 AQF Level 8 and AQF Level 9 particular courses. So this is an overview of what we offer here, and we're very, very excited about what we offer. So let's go to the next one, and I'm hoping that I'm going stage by stage here in terms of what we've actually got in all of these slides. But this is actually about our particular entry requirements into our undergraduate qualification. So we've got our team on board who are actually answering your questions in the chat room if you've got particular questions, and you might have be curious about a particular entry requirement in your qualification. So just either type that question in there, or if you'd prefer to have the questions answered just one-on-one, just leave your contact details so that the team can follow up with you tomorrow. So this is really important in to make sure. You'll note there that we also have a national criminal history check, and that's required within your first term of enrolment if you're enrolling in the Bachelor of Counselling, Coaching, and the Bachelor of Psychological Sciences. Now, in the Bachelor of Counselling and the Bachelor of Psychological Sciences and Counselling, we have volunteer hours and we have service learning hours, and we also have placement. And so we need to have the criminal history check to make sure that that's all cleared for you to be able to work in 3 different spaces. So but by the time you go to placement in your 3rd year in the undergraduate program and the 2nd year in the postgraduate program, you've actually had exposure to other areas and other environments. So that's really very important. Diploma of Counselling Skills, as I mentioned earlier, you can study it full-time, you can study it part-time. Sometimes if people have been away from study for a while, they might start with 1 unit or 2 units, and they might see how does that go in terms of work-life balance. Maybe you've got family, it might be you're doing work as well. And so you might decide, well, I'll start with 1 unit or I'll start with 2 units. And if it's actually going very well for you, the most units you can actually do in a trimester is 3. And overall in this, if you did this full time, it's 8 units. So you might decide 2, 3 in 2nd trimester, 3 in the 3rd trimester. You'll see here these particular units, we have they're sequential, and so that we make sure that when you enrol in 1 unit that you're actually going to enrol in a unit that's in the early part of the qualification and not enrol in a unit that's right at the end of the qualification. So you'll see profession, reflection and self-care and the mental health and wellness. They're 2 of our very early units. And that gives you an opportunity to really start to explore, because counselling very much is about that professional reflection. It's about self-awareness. It's about reflecting on the moment. It's about reflecting in the moment. And it's about reflecting after. So you're starting to be introduced to professional reflection and self-care, and that's going to be your companion as you journey through your studies. So we've got a coordinator of the Diploma of Counselling Skills, John Silver, Louise Porter. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more about the specifics of the program, one of our team members would be very happy to reach out to you, as will be the team members, Alex and her team, that are on the call tonight. So I'm just moving to our next one, which is our bachelor's, and I do apologise, we're having a little bit of difficulty here with the computer, and we'll see if we can move. The Bachelor of Counselling. So the Diploma of Counselling Skills is the first year. Then you move into the second year and the third year. So the Bachelor of Counselling is 3 years. And you'll see that we say there it's 24 units. So each year, full-time, is 8 units, but you can study it part-time, and there's a certain number of years that you can actually have your qualification in if you study part-time. So we actually have, as I mentioned earlier, volunteer hours, and volunteering can start virtually once you've got your national police check. Once you're enrolled, you can actually go on to our ACAP website, type in volunteering, and our magnificent counselling placement team are your next port of call. And they have a list of a range of places where you could actually engage in volunteering, or you might have a service that you're interested in, and then you let them know and they will check it out to make sure it fits the criteria of what we identify at ACAP for volunteering, and also to make sure, as a student, of course, you're insured when you do your volunteering hours. So we do volunteering. In the second year, we do a unit called service learning, where you do a project out in the community, and it's a 50-hour project. It starts and finishes in 1 trimester. And obviously in your third year, you do placement. And a little bit later this evening, I'm going to talk about the postgraduate course, and we'll talk about your placement in that space. So if you have a look here, lots of different assessments we have. Some of our assessments are very traditional, where you do role play counselling sessions, you'll do an essay. Some of our assessments are what the field is telling us they want our students to be able to do upon graduation, and they want posters, they want information books. So some of our assessments might be along that track. And if you remember earlier this evening, Alex talked about some of the student support that we provide, and we have scaffolding guides. So if there is an assessment and you're thinking, oh, a poster, how do you go about that? We actually have guides to be able to support you and set you up for success. So the biggest thing is we've got the guides, but you need to take the initiative to make the appointment with the support service for them to be able to work with you. You'll notice there that there's a minor in coaching. So we have a coordinator who looks after the 4 coaching units, and we have a band of students who engage in those 4 coaching units. And the difference for students who are doing coaching to counselling is that in your placement unit, 1 week you'll have the first trimester, everybody has counselling supervision. In the second trimester, if you're doing the coaching stream, you'll do coaching supervision 1 week and counselling supervision the next. If you're interested in learning more, the team that are on the platform tonight can give you a little bit more information. So this is just an example. Oops, we've gone a bit too far. This is an example of some of the units, and I'm sure the fact that you're listening here tonight, you've done your detective work. You've gone exploring and you've had a look at, well, what are the units on offer? And we're really very excited. So you're joining us with a program that we had accredited over 2 years ago. So part of the process in any higher education institution is that you engage in ongoing accreditation. And so our Bachelor of Counselling and our Bachelor of Counselling Coaching was accredited 2 years ago in January with our main accrediting bodies, PACFA and the ACA, Australian Counselling Association. So you're joining a really very exciting program in the undergraduate. You'll see we've got neuroscience, and anybody you speak to in the area of mental health and trauma are saying that as counsellors, we need to really understand how the brain works. So whilst you've got 1 unit that's concentrating on neuroscience, it's the DNA that goes through the units. You'll see we've got crisis counselling, addictive behaviour. We have counselling theory units. We have counselling skills units where you're introduced in the first year. You develop your skills in the second year, and in the third year, you're assured with your skills. We have theory integration. So if you think about that philosophy that I talked about right at the very beginning of when I started to chat this evening, It's about us making sure that you're fit to practice and that you're ethically fit to practice with culturally diverse communities, individuals. And so that means you've got to be able to understand the theory to apply the theory to the client that's right in front of you or the group of individuals that you're working with. So the counselling theory integration is the culmination of 3 years of theory. The counselling skills 3 is the culmination of 3 years of skills training. So very, very exciting. We do lifespan development. We do grief and loss counselling as well. So because you've had that grounding in the undergraduate course, that means when you're going out to placement, you'll meet with the placement team a couple of trimesters before you're ready to go to placement. And we have at least 600 sites across Australia where our students are placed. But there might be an area you're really interested in and we haven't got any students in that space. So our placement team will work with you to see what's possible. And it might be that you introduce us to a service or our placement team finds a service. And then once again, similar to volunteering, we've got to make sure that everything aligns with what the accreditation bodies are saying we need to do, that you've got on-site supervision. And of course, when you're on placement in ACAP, one of the beautiful gifts that we give you is we give you weekly supervision. So additional to what's happening in the field, we give you group supervision for your 2 trimesters. We do that in the postgraduate and we do that in the undergraduate. But these are some examples of students who graduate from the bachelors, the different areas that many of the students will work in. And if you look at the website for PACFA and you look at the website for the Australian Counselling Association, you'll actually see both of those websites, and they're the main counselling accreditation bodies in Australia. They'll have examples of where jobs are. In fact, I think both of them advertise jobs as well. So they're good to have a look at for you to think about. Now you're coming and you're inquisitive and you're curious about counselling, and you might be thinking where you want to work upon graduation, or you might not have a really clear idea. You want to be exposed to the different theories, the different units in your study, and that's going to mould and influence where you want to work in your placement and upon graduation. That's the same in the postgraduate, the master's and the graduate diploma, as it is in the undergraduate. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't pay time and talk to you about this psychological sciences and counselling qualification. You'll learn more about this if you go to the Psychological Sciences Discover ACAP evening, but this is just to let you know it's broken down. There are 11 units that belong to the counselling, there are 10 units that belong to psychology, and the multidisciplinary units I talked about earlier, they're the 3 units that all of the students who study an undergraduate unit course here at ACAP, they've got the beautiful benefit of being enrolled in those particular units. So this is saying for these particular students, if you're doing the psychological sciences and counselling, you still do the volunteer hours, but you do more volunteer hours than students who are doing the Bachelor of Counselling because you're not studying the service learning unit. And the reason you don't study the service learning unit is because you've got to study the psychological sciences unit. So the team tonight that are on the platform can help you in terms of really seeing the difference between the courses. But just to think about, you might want to know, well, what are the 11 units in counselling? What are the 10 units in psychology? And that can help you. And you can think about, well, if I do this one rather than doing the coaching with the counselling or doing the counselling, which one's actually going to work better for me in terms of employment at the end of the day? So you need to be informed to make that call as to which course you're actually going to enrol in. Whoops. So in terms of the student placement and supervision, as I talked about earlier, when you're in the master's and the graduate diploma, you actually have a certain number of hours that you study when you're out on placement, and you have less hours when you're in the undergraduate program. But our placement is over 2 trimesters. It is every week. It might be 1 or 2 days across that week. And whilst you do your placement, some students will do no other units at that time in terms of study. Some students will do a unit plus their placement. So you've really got to think about placement's an enormous thing. It's a great thing to do. So you've got to think about if you've got work commitments, if you've got family commitments, how am I actually going to manage my time? And so our team on the platform tonight will help you in terms of really thinking about managing your time, because counselling isn't a qualification that you just do near enough or you just skim through. As I said earlier, we actually work with people's lives, so we take it very seriously. So our placement and our teaching and learning, it's really important that you're engaged and you're involved. So you've got to think about what can I commit and what's actually going to be possible. So one of the great things I think about ACAP, and I've come from another higher education institution a few years ago, is that we do have a placement team, and the placement team can work with you to support in terms of placements because of their wide database. So that's an important thing to be aware of. I'm going to switch gears, and some of you will be thinking, oh, I am very interested in this next one. Whilst I've been talking about the undergraduate, a lot of the concepts will be similar across the courses. But this one is a Graduate Certificate of Wellbeing in Schools. We've been running this now for over a year, and we're very excited in terms of our students are finding that it's a very valuable course. It is something that many of our students will have a qualification, and it will complement their qualification. They're interested in working in the area of wellbeing. They may be working with teenage clients. They might be working with young people. They might even be working in higher education, and they want to specialise and look at the latest theory, the latest research, the latest applications, the best way of working in the area of mental wellbeing and health. So this is 4 units that you would study. So a graduate certificate is made up of 4 units. A graduate diploma here for us is made up of 12, and our master's is made up of 16. So the graduate certificate is really the entree into the higher education space. So it's a different structure from our other units. Now, this is not an accredited course, because to be accredited with PACFA, for example, you need to have at least 2-year course. And so this is 4 units that can be studied in across 2 trimesters, or you can do 1 unit, 1 unit, 1 unit, 1 unit, and do it across a year and a half. Our educators who work in this particular course are actually guidance counsellors working in the area of school wellbeing. And so they work with us full time, but they have a very strong legacy of working in the area of wellbeing. So you get great, credible practitioners who are actually teaching this particular course. This course does not have workshops. It actually has classes across the trimester. You'll see that there are 5 classes, 2 hours, interactive tutorials, and there's a lot of self-paced learning. So it works beautifully for people who are working full-time, maybe a counsellor already in the field who has a big practice in the area of wellbeing but wants to come back and specialise a little bit more in the area of school wellbeing. So you might find this is an interesting one to explore as you move forward. We've also got, and you've heard me talk about it this evening, we're moving now into this landscape of the postgraduate arena. And in the postgraduate space, we have a graduate diploma of counselling, and we have a master's of counselling and psychotherapy. Now, what's really important is your base qualification. So your base qualification really influences whether you go knocking on the door for the graduate diploma of counselling, or if you go knocking on the door for the Master of Counselling and Psychotherapy. So if you've got a degree that's not in counselling, may not be in a cognate area, and a cognate area is something like social work or psychology. If you've got, let's say, perhaps a law degree, or you have a medical degree, it may be that you would be eligible to apply for the Graduate Diploma of Counselling. If you've done your undergraduate in counselling, you would be eligible to go immediately into the Master of Counselling and Psychotherapy. We do have, and I'm seeing it increase over time since starting here myself, is that a number of students who will start with the graduate diploma will then move into a master's. And if you choose to do that pathway yourself, it would be that you would have credit 8 of your units in the Graduate Diploma of Counselling are credited into the Master of Counselling. But let's have a look at these in terms of separate courses as we move forward. But
hey, Margaret, sorry, I just wanted to confirm with you. The slide it's not changing. So we've just been stuck on the same slide for a little while. I just wanted to let you know.
How's that going?
So we're just on the
now?
No, we're just still on the Bachelor of the Psychological Science and Counselling.
They're all changing at my end. I do apologise.
No, that's okay.
Everything's changing on my computers here. How's that going?
No change as of yet.
Well, how about if I stop sharing and if I can get you to upload? Would that work? And then we can share them?
Yeah. Is Alex available to do that? She just has the
Yeah, I'll just get that one ready. I'll be 1 minute.
Thank you. Sorry, everybody.
Okay.
I'll just stop sharing. That's good to know. So I'll just go here and then we can get that organised. So let's just. Okay. So I'm not sharing anymore, I hope.
That's all good. We're just on the Masters of Counselling and Psychotherapy page now.
So as we talk through, as our colleagues are putting up the Masters of Counselling and Psychotherapy, it's really thinking about it's a 2-year qualification and the Graduate Diploma is a 2-year qualification, but the difference is we talk about the Australian Quality Framework. So the Graduate Diploma, the Australian Quality Framework is an 8, and the Masters of Counselling, it's a bit more sophisticated, it's a 9. Both of those programs are accredited with both of the main accreditation bodies, PACFA and ACA, and both of them are 2 years. What you'll find though in the Graduate Diploma of Counselling is that you have 12 units. But in the Masters, you actually have 16 units. And you'll find that what the difference is that the units in the Graduate Diploma, they carry more weight in terms of they're a little bit denser in terms of the content. And so they take us over the 2-year period. You also have placement at the end of your second year, the same as the Masters of Counselling, where you do placement as part of your second year. In both courses, in the Graduate Diploma and in the Masters, it's very sequential. So you need to do certain units before you do the next units. If you happen to be on the platform tonight and you have an honours in psychology or in social work, for example, you would be able to get some advanced standing that would bring you into the Masters. So you still need to do a number of the counselling units, but you would get recognition for your honours to do less in terms of the Masters of Counselling and Psychotherapy. I think we're still waiting for the slides, am I correct?
Yeah.
Hey, Margaret, I'll just see if you can reopen that one. It's coming up that it is not working. It's saying not responding.
Okay, let me see what I can do here then.
We thank everyone for your patience. Sorry, just bear with us. Won't be too long.
Otherwise, we can we'll talk through without the slides, I guess.
You guys are doing great. Technology happens.
Thank you so much. Of course, it has to be at this time. Thanks, Trace.
You're going to email it all to us as well, so it's not that we're not going to get it.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely. So yeah, we'll email you out a recording.
Would it be okay if I sent it to somebody to get it translated into information that I'm able to read, or is that copyright?
I can't see that that would be a problem.
That's good. It's only that I can't see and aren't able to read PowerPoints. And I thought, well, I was going to just send it, and I thought, well, if it wasn't okay, I'd better check.
No, I don't think that will be a problem at all. I just think we're having a bit of problems with computers though. So what I might do, if we're not able to share the screen, I might, if everybody indulges me, I can talk through. Would people be comfortable with that?
That's fine.
Yes.
Because we are
Sounds
having
good.
a little bit of trouble, and I think rather than waiting our time, if I can have the cheat sheet by having the screen in front of me, even though I can't actually share it, that's probably going to be helpful for all of us. So if that works, and but our team is still on, so thank you very much. So I guess in terms of from a diploma perspective, as I said, we've got the diploma that goes for 2 years and it's full-time, similar to the undergraduate, where it could be you can study it part-time or you can study it full-time. It's got the 12 units, and at this point in time in the Diploma of Counselling, you've got 200 hours of placement. And when I say at this point in time, because accreditation is always ongoing, you might find that gets increased to 210 hours or stays at 200 hours. So at this point in time, and a significant part of that would be working with clients in your placement site, but also we talk about general hours, and general hours might be your case notes, it might be being part of case meetings, it might be running groups, it might be case conceptualization, it might be engaging in professional development activities, reading particular articles, etc. So you'll find in your first week or two being out on the placement site is that you'll have a plan, an agreed plan between you and your supervisor of how you're actually going to work those hours. And then our placement team members link in with you on a regular basis to make sure that you're cruising, that you're flying with your own wings, you're getting the hours you need, you're getting the support that you need. We do mid-placement reviews where we actually connect with students and ask you to engage in a self-reflection. We also invite the placement site to contribute to the mid-placement review to see how you're travelling. And so we've got your dimension and we've got their dimension. We also have the clinical supervisor who you work with in a small group here at ACAP over the 2 trimesters that you're working with. So we actually have 3 dimensions of people saying, how are you going? And we really want it to be an environment where you can thrive. And if it means that you're finding it's not a good match, we've got our placement team, we've got our clinical supervisors that will work with you to see how we get things one step better, because the placement is really very critical. And for the majority of students that I've had the privilege of working with, they often say to me, Margaret, that's my aha moment, where all of the things that we've been sitting in class learning about and listening to, it's suddenly making sense and it's suddenly coming together. So in terms of that's why the placement is really, really very important. In the graduate diploma, there's a recommendation, because you do have fairly big units, is that there's probably at least you dedicate at least 12 hours of study per week per unit. And what we found in the graduate diploma, because they are big units, that 2 units are full-time very, very early on. So when you're looking at this, if you're going to sign up to the graduate diploma, really have a think about whether you sign up to 1 unit or to 2 units, because there's a fair bit of knowledge, there's a fair bit of skills that you'll be engaging with. And once again, you've got the team that are on the call tonight, and you've also got our course coordinators who'd be very happy to pick up the phone, have a conversation with you, link into a Zoom if that's what your preference is, or to email and give you some more information in terms of what the assessments might be, the timing of the assessments, some of the themes that might be explored in a particular unit, so that you're more informed with your conversation and your decision making. Similar to the undergraduate program, the graduate diploma and the masters, you do need to have your criminal record check. And that's really, really important. And the course entry requirements, and you might already have this from having conversations with our team here at ACAP, but within the Masters, we actually have, as I said before, it's that cognate degree. So if you studied, you've been out in the field working and you're coming back and you're thinking, I'm really looking at a more sophisticated qualification in my counselling, it may be that the Masters is saying, choose me, choose me, choose me. And so you might think, I want to go exploring here. So in this particular course, we do ask for 2 referee reports. There's an expectation that you've got the particular base qualification. It might be that, and you have your national record check. And we also have a questionnaire. And the questionnaire is linked very strongly to our inherent requirements. So if you look at the website of PACFA, and it's right down the bottom of the website, but we have inherent requirements. And the inherent requirements mean when you graduate from us as an ACAP student and you're an ACAP alumni, you graduate being really grounded in these requirements. And this is about being ethical. It's about being able to communicate. It's being able to regulate emotions. So we have inherent requirements, and really have a look at those, because that's what we stand for as a college. And we also have something called graduate attributes. And so we really focus on the sustainability of your qualification. And as I said earlier, the fact that you can communicate in many, many different ways. The fact that you follow the code of conduct, that you're respectful, you're courteous, you're ethical. So part of ACAP, if you're thinking, yes, this is for me, it's have a look at what our bread and butter is, what our DNA is. So that philosophy of counselling that I talked about at the beginning is very, very important. So are the inherent requirements, and so are the graduate attributes. And so bring all them together and mix them up. And you've got our units that we're teaching. We really are very proud of the depth of the course that we offer. So in the Masters, once again, it's got the 2 years. Now, it has 16 units, and the difference between the Masters and the Graduate Diploma at the moment in terms of placement is you do another 40 hours of placement in the Masters, because it's our most sophisticated course in counselling. So at this point in time, you do 240 hours. Now, you're not doing 240 hours actually working with clients one-on-one for 240 hours, but you're probably working with your clients a minimum of 80 hours over those 2 trimesters. And the remaining hours, as I talked before, it may be leading groups, case meetings, case conceptualisation, etc. It's a minimum of 80, so you might find you're on a site where you do far more than 80. So the more placement hours you get, the better it is, obviously, because you are refining your craft. Now, in the Masters of Counselling and Psychotherapy, it's offered as a blended course. It's our only course at this point in time that is purely blended. And that means it is the interactive tutorials online every fortnight, every alternative fortnight. There's a consultation drop-in session. Those drop-in sessions are invitations. They're not obligation. But if you really want to master your craft, you drop in, because your educator is there, ready to answer questions, to practice, to work with you. It might be an assignment's coming back. Unpack the assignment. Look at the marking criteria. What does it mean? If I do this, what does it mean? Sound. What does it mean? This marking criteria. So they'll unpack it and they'll talk with you. They'll do that in their lectures. They'll do that in the tutorial, but they've got 2 hours where they are available really to work with you. And that's across every blended course that we have within counselling. But in the Masters, we don't have on-campus classes at all in the Masters, but you will have a 2-day, for every unit, there's a 2-day on-campus class. So when I say we don't have on-campus classes, what I mean is we don't have weekly on-campus classes. We have the blended online. And of course, in COVID, majority of our workshops have actually been converted to online workshops. And our workshops here at ACAP are on a Friday and on a Saturday, and they go from 8:30 to 5:30. So if you happen to be joining us and you happen to be in Sydney or Melbourne, you might have a workshop in week 3 next trimester, you might find, because of COVID restrictions and lockdowns, campuses are closed, so that workshop will be online. Now, our educators are very skilled in working in the online space. So they're not going to have death by PowerPoint. They're actually going to engage you a fair bit, and there'll be lots of opportunities for practice within the online space. So don't be perturbed the fact that you might be thinking, well, what do we do? You know, how's that going to work? Similar to the undergraduate program, in the postgraduate programs, you will have traditional assessments. You will have academic essays that many of you might be very used to, and role plays, and dissecting the role play and analysing the role play and talking about the ethics of the role play. But you also will be engaging in other particular types of assessments, and similar, but a little bit more sophisticated than the undergraduate. You'll have information booklets, or perhaps a pechakucha. Pechakucha is a Japanese PowerPoint, 20 slides, 20 seconds each slide. So you actually need to interrogate and prepare for that like you would an essay, but rather than writing it, you're actually communicating it in words and in graphics. So, and don't panic if you're thinking, we've got lots of scaffolding guides to support you in terms of those particular areas. Similar to the undergraduate, we have students who have graduated. Obviously, when we say there are 13,000 students that have graduated from ACAP courses, we have a number of students who've graduated the postgraduate courses. And many of our students, where they do placement, they're actually fortunate enough to also get employment. But we have students, and I'm looking at the list here, and I'll just read a couple of these out. And as you'll get a copy of this PowerPoint, you can have a look at it yourself. But we've got Life Without Barriers, Beyond Blue, Drug Arm, Anglicare, Guide Dogs, Salvation Army, Catholic Care, Mission Australia, Department of Aging, Disability and Home Care, City Mission, and Eating Disorder Foundation, and Nurses Association. So there's some of the different employment areas that our students have gained employment, and that's where they're working as counsellors based on their wonderful qualification that they will have received here. And that's in the postgraduate space. And a day doesn't go by here where students talk with me as a chair of counselling, and we look at different opportunities. And this week, for example, I'm just going to share with you a couple of the opportunities before I ask you to share questions that you've got. But we have the primary health network here in Brisbane have invited our students across our courses to contribute to their newsletters. So we have a number of students who've put up their hand, and they're interested in writing 300, 400 words in the different newsletters that go to over 3,000 practitioners, really talking about counselling. It might be one of their assignments that they have engaged with, and they're interested to share some of that research or some of their learnings. We've also had the opportunity this week where we've got one of our students who's working at one of the cancer institutes, and they've organised for us, for our students to engage in voluntary work and in service learning there, and that's student initiated. And our final experience with students this week is that we have a student resource space where students actually upload Vimeos or stories or blogs about their experience. And this week we've got students who are interviewing students about placement, about their experience in MALT, about some of their service learning opportunities. So what you'll find is we really are authentic in giving voice to students, and students have a sense of ownership, and students contribute to the formation of one another in terms of a counsellor in training, and really helping us keep the bar very high so that when our students graduate, they do make a difference in the field to the client group that they're working with. So I'm going to stop now and ask the team that are listening if there are particular questions that they'd like to answer, or if there's questions that they'd like me to speak to.
Margaret, we did have a couple of questions about CBT. Can you shed some light on that, as well as the somatic therapies there for PTSD?
I'm not skilled in the somatic therapies, but I'm very skilled in the CBT, cognitive behaviour therapy. So I know across our course that we actually immerse students in a range of the different theories so that students can interrogate particular theories that they might have an affinity with in terms of the paradigm of that particular theory. So it might be that in our theory units, you're introduced to, let's say, CBT in your first year, in your first unit, perhaps in the master's or in the bachelor course, and then you'll advance and you'll look at it in more depth. So you're not just introduced to a theory once and you've got to master it then. You actually have the opportunity to explore theories. You'll have the opportunity in terms of some of the different assessments, which are negotiated assessments, where you'll be able to interrogate a particular theory, and it might be through a crisis intervention lens or a trauma-informed framework lens. One of the things that we do though, is we make sure that you're not graduating just learning about one theory. So in some of the units, you might find that the assessments are structured that you interrogate a particular theory in the first assessment and a different theory in the second assessment. So you become well and truly grounded. So you can be in the bachelor's become eclectic, and in the master's start to be at the starting blocks to be integrative. Because we know that being an integrative therapist where you're joining theories and counselling takes years in the profession. So being eclectic means you are learning about theories and you're learning about the skill set in different environments such as mental health, trauma, families, children, and you're being able to join them together by your third year and know which theories work well and which theories are diametrically opposed. As you go into the postgraduate, we intentionally focus on developing you moving from being eclectic to being integrative, but we know integration takes decades, but you're ready to really get out there. In terms of the second theory, I'm not sufficiently versed enough to talk that through in terms of research, but I'm very happy to ask one of our team members to follow that up with some readings tomorrow if you would like.
Is everyone happy with their, there was a lot of questions there in regards to your bachelor's and your entry requirements there for the graduate diploma of counselling, and then also the masters of counselling and psychotherapy. Is everyone pretty okay with the differences between the admission criteria for both of those, or would anybody like us to go through that again?
Yes, please, if possible, just very quickly.
So for your masters, for students who come into the masters here at ACAP, if they have got a foundation qualification, such as a Bachelor in Counselling, they're eligible to enter into the masters. If they have perhaps a Bachelor in Business, because it's not deemed as cognate, it's not similar to counselling, you would be eligible to enter into the graduate diploma of counselling. And so many students will do a graduate diploma, and that's 2 years and qualified and working out in the field brilliantly. Some of our students, we're finding a number of our students may choose to do the the graduate diploma, and because they didn't have a cognate, a counselling or a psychology or a social work-based qualification, so this has brought them into the counselling arena, they might go out and work for a number of years and they may choose to come back and then decide, well, I think I'll build on that and I'll do a master's. And rather than having to do a 2 years master's, because you've done a 2 year in the graduate diploma, here at ACAP, you would have advanced standing for a number of units, for 8 of the units, and then you do 8 units in your master's because you've already studied 2 years already. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I had one particular question, like if we do a graduate diploma of psychology from, so I have a graduate diploma of psychology not from ACAP, but can I apply to the Master of Counselling and still receive recognition of prior learning?
Look, I'm sure you would if you applied. If you applied and you provide your test aimers and unit outlines, etc., we would have a look. So if you look at our just at our website, you'll see that there's examples of if you have a if you've got an honours, for example, and you've got more than an honours, you've got the graduate diploma. But if you had an honours, it means these are the units that you would need to study, or these are the ones you'd get your credit for. So I encourage the team to simply put on the chat room now what the application form would be, and then for you just to have a look at that. That would come through to the discipline, and the discipline would assess that. But be kind to the discipline and just give as much information as you can, and they can assess it very quickly.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
For your Master of Counselling and Psychotherapy and for your Bachelor of Counselling, do you not study psychotherapy specifically until you do your Masters, or does the counselling include some psychotherapies? What happens there?
For us in the Bachelors, it's a Bachelor of Counselling, and so we've got their counselling units. And so in the Masters, we've got the Masters of Counselling and Psychotherapy. So some of our units will actually, in our second year, directed towards more intense therapy, which would be your psychotherapy.
And if I wanted to qualify more in the psychotherapy, would that be something that I could do there, or would I have to go elsewhere for that?
We wouldn't have that in our Bachelors because it's a counselling. But in terms of our Masters of Psychotherapy, you'll see there's a lot of conversations happening at the moment across the counselling field. And you might want to have a look at PACFA and ACA in terms of the different courses that they're promoting, which may be, you'd have your Masters already, a Masters of Counselling and Psychotherapy, and they might have a particular, might be promoting a particular type of psychotherapy where they might have master classes, etc. But that would be the same for anything. If you looked at cognitive behaviour therapy, for example, that question that came through earlier, in my training many years ago, I did all my master's training, but after 3 or 4 years in the field, I decided I wanted to actually specialise, and I specialised in choice theory. And that was 5 years of specialisation. Now, I'd studied choice theory at master's level, and I'd learnt about it, but to become really a specialist in a particular field, you've got to, once you've got your qualification, it's like anything, you'll then become a master of it. If for Gestalt therapy, for example, you'll be introduced to Gestalt therapy, but if you really want to become a specialist in that area, you'll find several years down the track, you might decide to do more master classes and get more certification in that area. Same as art therapy, sand tray therapy. So often in the specialisations, we'll have a very good grounded masters, be out in the field for a while, and then decide where do I want to specialise. And then you'll do PD to be able to stay current as a member of your accrediting bodies. You've got to maintain a certain amount of professional development. So with that professional development, it might be you decide to engage in going to different webinars and doing some different skill sets in the area of psychotherapy.
And do you do EMDR therapy in your Masters?
Not at this point in time.
What about IFS?
Yes, we're looking. I know that with one of our refreshed units that the staff are looking at that for next year. But I haven't seen anything finalised at this point in time, but I can get our team to follow up with you and share with you what they're looking at in terms of the unit for next year. If you're interested, just leave your email and just put what you're after, and I'll ask our team to follow up with you over the next couple of days.
Okay, what about sensory motor psychotherapy?
We have art therapy, not the sensory motor, but we certainly have the art therapy.
Yep. What about your affect regulation therapy?
In terms of, we've got, for us, we've got the contemporary therapies. We look at In our masters, we look at the contemporary therapies that are coming through, and we look at the research base that's behind that. So you'll see we probably look, if you look at what our course is, you'll see that we're introducing our students to the cause of counselling. And then, and you'll see that we've got elements of different theories and frameworks coming through. And then that specialisation would come beyond your qualification. It would be the same with your bachelor's as well and your graduate diploma.
Excellent. I just want to thank everyone for taking their time today to attend our discovery session for counselling. If you guys have any other questions, you can email us. That's at connect@acap.edu.au. We also have our apply link on there. I've sent that one all in the chat. Also with that one, if you are wanting to complete that survey and you have 5 minutes, you can go into the running to win one of the $50 e-gift cards as well. We'll send through that link in the chat so you can apply for that. But thank you so much for your perseverance and hanging on with us with those IT difficulties. We love that. Thank you. All right.
Thank you, everybody.